I just want someone to get on the same regiment that I'm on without, and I want them to do it without TRT, and I want them to do the same things that I'm doing, diet-wise, not drinking, fitness-wise. I want them to prove to me that they won't get good results. They thought they had it. They thought they could have the best of both worlds. They could drink and party, stay out late, and then just smash the gym the next day. The things that alcohol showed me, like being able to think deeper or to have more intense conversations or to be more fun or to be more laid back. Like alcohol wasn't doing that. It was just revealing something in me that was already there. I caught a glimpse of losing everything.
Welcome back to the Warrior Kings podcast. Today we have JD Emmons, or as you might know him on social media, Fit Over 40 Dad. And today we're talking about the path to sobriety and how it has transformed his life and his fitness journey. I've been really looking forward to this one. It's super awesome to have him on the show. So without further ado, let's dive right into the episode. Hello and welcome to the Warrior Kings podcast. I'm your host, Michael Riggs, here to assist you on your journey to living a fully optimized, leveled up life as a man. JD, welcome to the Warrior Kings podcast. It's great to have you here today. For those who might not know your work or your content, tell us a little bit about what you do.
I guess mainly what I'm trying to do is just get a message out there that life's better on the other side of the bottle. We're fed this message that's like the epitome of being a man is being able to hold your liquor or things relative to that. And I tried that route. I've seen a lot of men try that route, and turns out it doesn't really work that way.
Yep. And it's an important message, and your content inspires me every day, It inspires me to be a better man in my life. So I appreciate you sharing that with the world and sharing your story with the world. It's super awesome.
Yeah. It seems to be needed for sure.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Men need it for sure. What was the turning point for I feel like it's different for everybody. Like when you decided to give up drinking, what was that turning point in your life like?
Well, a little background. So I've got 11 kids. I've got 4 grandkids.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I've been married for 29 years. You would think in the midst of that, the life that we created, that I would feel completed and fulfilled and definitely not alone. I found myself at the end of 2023 just feeling completely alone, and I had spent most of that year actually realizing that I needed to cut back on drinking because it was affecting my health. I even implemented some things in my life like running a marathon to try to slow me down a little bit on drinking, and I just worked harder and drank more. You work harder to overcome what the bottle's doing, and then you drink more to reward yourself for working so hard. It's like this vicious cycle. And Thanksgiving of 23, I remember just being in my living room and just feeling completely, isolated and alone in the midst of, 15, 20 people at my house. And it was a really eye-opening experience for me. I know a lot of people have their versions of their lows, and some of them are pretty traumatic. This one to me was pretty traumatic because I felt like I was missing out on life. And we had worked so hard to get to this point. That was really scary for me. And so that was my turning point.
Did you feel kind of like you were squandering the blessing a little bit, kind of like with, taking the distraction of drinking and also not feeling fulfilled, though you should have, I guess, kind of? Is that
it was, I don't know, I don't consider myself a real deep thinker. I don't really think much about the future. And so that being my norm, when the thoughts of losing everything and getting a quick glimpse of what that would look like, and realizing that the things I was even doing to get fulfillment, like drinking, to feel connected, to feel like I fit in with other men, like that wasn't working anymore. And the only thing I had left was my family because they still, accepted me. Like I wasn't a crazy drunk. Like I wasn't your stereotypical textbook alcoholic drunk or whatever. I actually felt like I was, in some regards, I think I was a better person. Like I actually interacted more with my kids and listened more to my wife, but it was becoming more and more difficult to keep the facade up, I guess. And And so I caught a glimpse of losing everything. I wasn't necessarily like on the verge of losing everything. Like it wasn't like imminent, at least not in my vision, so to speak. I mean, not what was actually going on, but I was seeing glimpses of that, and yeah. So I suppose it was like I wasn't. I mean, I would love to say that I was thoughtfully thinking, or that I was actively thinking about not being a good steward and I needed to shape up or ship out, because that just wasn't me. But looking back, that's definitely what was going on for sure.
Yeah. A lot of guys, well, I feel like most guys don't look within and make a change, because it takes a lot of courage to do that, to kind of confront yourself, and take a look in the mirror. It takes a lot of courage.
Well, it's embarrassing,
Yeah.
It's really embarrassing when you're supposed to be the leader and the man, the provider, and areas, whether other people bring it to your attention or God brings it to your attention, or you just have the realization on your own, when you find the areas that you're failing in, especially in areas where you're kind of consciously, purposefully failing in it. Like I was choosing to drink. Like no one was making me do it. It wasn't because of how I was raised. I mean, there's all kinds of excuses I could throw in there, but it was my choice. And I didn't quite understand that to the depth I do now at that time. But yeah, it was me doing it. And when I realized that, it was really embarrassing, because I mean, I'm supposed to be the man of the house, the leader, the guy that my kids look up to, the example for my daughters of who to marry. And I was completely dropping the ball.
A lot of people don't realize, you mentioned before that it was starting to affect your health. I feel like a lot of people don't realize the health consequences. I did an episode a while back where I was talking about the health consequences of drinking alcohol regularly. And I was actually accused by a lot of people for making up fake science, and they would say you can drink every day and be just fine. I'm like, Google it, man. Like, these are the consequences, like I'm not making it up,
Yeah, it's I can kind of joke about it now, because I was so deep into it. So I can, in the process of seeming like I'm making fun of others, I'm actually making fun of my former self. Like the justifications that we bring to ourselves, they make so much sense in the moment to us, because everyone, I think a lot, I won't say everyone, but a lot of people, especially high achievers, I would consider me and my wife kind of high achievers. We've done a lot. We've chosen to live a life that most people tell us that there's no way they could do it or would do it or would even want to do it, and we're doing it. And so that same mentality was carried over into drinking. I thought, I can be the guy, that is healthy and drinks, and I just have to drink a higher quality liquor and regulate it. Like it's not about getting plastered all the time. Although I stayed intoxicated, the majority of every day, and definitely every event, no matter what the event was. And I was telling those same lies to myself. And those people, the people that are heaviest, I'm finding now, I mean, it may take 6 months or a year, but I've been in this long enough now to where I'm seeing the not full circle, but the 180s, I guess, happen, where people that were so hardcore, like, this is, garbage, you're stating false, you don't know my life, you don't know everything, all this kind of stuff. Those same people are coming back now and going, I see it. Like they've hit that. And in the beginning stage of that, of the rock bottom, or whatever, the changing point, what I'm finding, the pattern, the beginning stages of that is to be so adamantly against someone sharing truth. Right? Yeah. So those people that were coming at you saying, "Oh, you're sharing false stuff," like, why are they even bothering conversing with you? Right? Yeah. If their life is so great and they're doing so wonderful, why do they take their time to go out of their way to share some hate with me, or share some hate with you, or anyone spreading a positive message? Right? Because it's consuming their minds, and they don't realize it at the time, but it will come. and and their eyes will be opened. Hopefully, not before it's too late.
Yeah. I have found that speaking truth and trying to help people will make some people really angry, and I've never been able to understand that. But I've done that too, where I went and got a more expensive bottle, and I'm like, I'm going to take this one slow. I'm going to have moderation now. I'm going to just have one or two, and then the next day I'm like, that didn't work,
The bottle's gone.
I drank more than half the bottle, that it just, and I don't know if that's for everybody, moderation is an interesting topic, but I know for me, it doesn't exist because I've tried it,
Yeah. Well, I think, I've come to the conclusion that the word moderation can only apply to somebody that's trying to slow something down that has taken hold of their life. Meaning, my wife drinks occasionally, right? She might drink a couple glasses of wine at dinner, couple times a month, or I think she drank some wine while we were down in the DR, and that's not moderation. That's just her norm, right? One of my coaches, and I think it's an AA term, but he refers to those people as normies. They're just normal drinkers. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that glass of wine that she's having is beneficial for her, because it's absolutely not. But it's not harmful in the same manner. Like I would want the whole bottle and another one, especially at, like the resort I just came from, it's all inclusive. I could have had as many bottles of wine at dinner as I wanted to. They weren't going to stop it, I could have had as many, they had Buffalo Trace there. I could have drinking anything and everything all day long. That's how I would have handled it. Because to me, the term moderation would apply to me, because to me, I'm an all or nothing. So the only way to slow that down and still partake, which I can't do, is moderation. And I don't think it's possible. I just don't. That's why I say often moderation is garbage. I just don't. But moderation only applies to somebody that is trying to slow something down. My wife's not trying to slow down drinking. There is no problem, right? And some people can do that. Some people can drink a glass of wine. I don't understand that. I honestly think it's stupid. I don't understand it. It's like, what's the point? Like, because it's not for the taste, right? So if it's for this feeling, then I don't want just a little bit of that feeling. I want as much as that feeling as I can, as I can get, right? Yeah. So why would I moderate that? Well, yeah, it doesn't make sense.
People have different reactions to alcohol also. Like you'll see the guy who can't walk straight and slurs his speech, doesn't know where he is. I'm like the opposite of that. When I drink alcohol, it elevates me. I'm more talkative. I think I'm smarter. I want to talk about every topic in the world, and I feel like I'm sharper when I drink alcohol, which I feel like that's even more dangerous because, like you said, I'll have one and then I want more of that feeling. I'm like, because I'm going up instead of down, right? So
yeah, in the moment, it's definitely how you feel. And there may be elements of truth to it. And I tried to tap into that. I kind of, I guess subconsciously or not on purpose, I came across this notion that the things that alcohol showed me, like being able to think deeper or to have more intense conversations or to be more fun or to be more laid back, like alcohol wasn't doing that. It was just revealing something in me that was already there. And so what I realized, 6 months or whatever after I stopped, was that I could tap into that. I just had to consciously, instead of using a drink to do it, I just had to use my mind to do it. And I'm not going to say that it's easy. Like it's much easier for me to stay in that place if those nights that I could regulate the alcohol really well, drank like almost like timing, I knew I had it figured out, right? Those nights that I could do it really well and I was really conscious of it, I felt like I could have lasted, who knows, days, right? But in the natural, getting to that place of being more interactive with people, like it's kind of tiresome for me. And so I can only do it for so long. And that's actually normal. Like that's more normal. It's kind of abnormal. Like we aren't just living our lives just like always in the state of entertainment, right? And that's what I was trying to keep that moment alive forever and ever and ever. And I wanted other people to experience, because I thought, well, if I'm experiencing it because I'm drinking, this, then you could experience it too. So let's experience it together. And so I'll buy you some, and here, whatever. And we would partake and share in this stuff, and we would have a grand old time. But that's not natural, like a good friendship's great, but it's not something that you do every single day and have these amazing conversations every single day. Like there's parts of it that maybe aren't so fun. There's parts of it that are quiet. There's parts of it that are, observing. There's different stages and seasons, and we're trying to stay in just one season because it's like bliss at the moment. But the after effects, what it's doing to your life, the results of 10 years of drinking for me, like I'm paying for those decisions now. Nearly 2 years after I've stopped, I'm still paying for the consequences, mainly in the financial sense. But there's definitely some relationship damages that have to be repaired, but not in the sense of like I didn't hurt anyone. There was no divorces. I didn't lose contact with my children, anything like that.
That happens to a lot of guys, though, as a consequence.
Yeah. Oh, it's so common. So many guys reach out and they're like, I had an ad out there one time that gave the option. It gave people 3 options to choose to respond to me. And one of the options was, I'm successful, but I can't drop the bottle. One of them was, I've lost everything. I don't remember. Something along the lines of like, I've literally lost everything. And a lot of people would respond in that manner. And so I would, reach out to them and I'm like, what's up? And they're like, well, I didn't even get on calls with these guys. And they're like, yeah, I've literally lost everything. Like I've lost my job. I've lost my wife. My kids won't talk to me. And the only way I'm continuing to drink is by tapping into my retirement funds, like people drinking on their 401ks and stuff like that.
Wow.
And I'm like, yeah, that's pretty low, right? And that happens a lot.
I've found that it's actually dangerous for some people to quit drinking cold turkey, which is kind of a reason enough not to let it get to that point, because some of those things are really scary that come with withdrawal symptoms from like heavy dependent alcoholics. Things like psychosis can happen, hallucinations, seizures, all kinds of really scary stuff. So, that's enough to be like, I don't ever want it to get to that point, when you learn that stuff.
Yeah. A lot of people, though, I'm finding that a lot of people rely on that, or they use that as their excuse to continue drinking, actually, because they don't want to, they think that that's for everyone, right? They don't realize that not everyone goes through those crazy withdrawals. And I don't know what puts someone over the edge. I feel like I drank quite a bit. I don't know if it's the type of liquor you drink. I don't know if it's genetics. I don't know what it is. Maybe it was supernatural whenever I stopped. I don't know. Like, all I know is that I was a pretty heavy drinker, and there's been people that have told me that they've tried to stop drinking before and they started to go through withdrawals and it scared them, so they went back into drinking. And I'll ask them how much they're drinking, and it's not near as much as what I was drinking. I don't know, so there's all types. It seems the pattern that I've found is that heavy vodka drinkers it seems like they have more of the withdrawal stuff, like, and then the cirrhosis of the liver and all that. But I don't know if that's true or not. I haven't done much studies into it. I'm not the guy that's trying to, although I preach sobriety and I consider myself like a sobriety coach, I'm more for the guy that's pretty much already dropped the bottle and is trying to figure out what to do with their life now, right? Like, I'm not a rehab center. I'm not going to be handing you drugs and, going through all that kind of stuff. I've had a guy that, we had to walk him through some stuff. And that's scary for me because I'm not trained in anything. I don't know what to do. Like, and I'm not going to encourage someone to, like, although I think that, I know I've taught one of my coaches, he was really heavy into stuff, and he went through a month of sweats and shakes and stuff. And he didn't go to a clinic. He didn't go to a rehab. He was so determined. Something monumental happened. And he was like, you know what? If I die, it's better than where this was headed. That's what he chose, so you just have to be, each person has to make that decision for themselves. And unfortunately, what happens more often than not is you're so out of yourself in these moments that it's hard to make a conscious decision to continue doing the right thing and figure out what's the right way to do it. And that's why it's so important to have a team around you. Like in his case, my coach's case, he had so I have a couple coaches. One of them went through the rehab stuff, the AA, and one of them didn't. And they have very similar drinking drug stories, but very different like ways that they got sober. And the one that did it, cold turkey, he had his wife and some close friends that were there to support him and, hold his hand basically through this process. Right. And that's heavy. I don't, I should have experienced something, I suppose, but I didn't.
It's definitely good to have community and mentors and people who have gone through it or are going through it themselves. And that's kind of what you provide with your content and your community. Super awesome.
Yeah, it really is important. I mean, it started off with just accountability for myself, and it continues to be that. A lot of the stuff that I put out there, I'm talking to me, like things that I'm dealing with daily or weekly or whatever. Like, I don't have it all figured out. Like, life's not like roses every single day. I've got a great life, an amazing life, but I still have mental things that, that come my way and battles, and it could be little things that trigger, like there's only one egg instead of 6 eggs left or, whatever, like stupid stuff. And you learn how to manage the stressful things, whether it's big stress or little stress. You learn how to manage it better and better as you go through it, especially whenever you're consciously, when you're present, you can do that. You can't do it when you're just like always relying on some kind of drug to get you through the day, right?
Something to numb it all out and kind of ignore that stuff and then now facing it in the right mind and working on your own mindset.
Yeah. And that accountability, that whether it's through a community or, just positive stuff being pumped into your mind, is really key in that. It really is important. There's someone to say, hey, this is normal, but you'll get through it. Or you got through it last time. My wife does this a lot. She reminds me of reality. Because in the moment, I'm like, oh, no, this is the end of the world. And she's like, no, you already got through this like 12 times before. I think you'll be okay. Like, okay, right. That voice of reason.
How has sobriety affected your fitness journey?
I started fitness and drinking at the same time about 11 or 12 years ago. And I can tell you my fitness journey while I was drinking just tapered out to nothing. And my fitness journey while I'm not drinking is only continuing to grow and get better. And I'm improving and reaching goals that I wanted to reach when I was drinking, but I never had the drive. I never had, it was mainly my drive and my energy was just so non-existent that I just eventually because I just gave into it. You can only like push through, feeling like crap from like a hangover or feeling like you're poisoned. You can only push through that so many times. And so I would just start resorting to just drinking earlier and earlier because that's what would relieve me in the moment. Going out and going for a run or doing some push-ups or pull-ups or whatever, in theory, should have made me feel better, but I didn't have the drive to even start the process. So it's a lot easier to go pour a drink.
Yeah. It has a lot of negative effects on fitness as well. Like it'll throw your hormones off. A lot of people don't know that it completely shuts off the body's fat burning. Like, so if you drink before bed, go lay down and go to sleep, your body's busy processing the alcohol instead of burning fat. So a lot of people who are drinking all the time, they see no results in their fitness.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's something that, just with the natural process of, especially in men, like our hormones change over the course of, starts in our late 20s, I think, and it just continues to gradually get worse. I mean, some genetics play a part in this, obviously, but I think some people can realistically, probably more in their 30s or whatever, 20s and 30s, can probably drink and stay fairly looking healthy or athletic. But there's a point, and I think I had reached that point in my early 40s where like I couldn't do both, and I'm not saying that I'm the example for everyone, but I see that more often than not. So many people that had that lifestyle of fitness, and they thought they had it. They thought they could, have the best of both worlds. They could drink and party, stay out late, and then just smash the gym the next day, and they could do that for a season. But I don't think that the length of that season is going to be different for everyone. But yeah, scientifically, at some point, your body is going to succumb to the negative effects of what alcohol is actually doing to your brain. That's the part that I've focused on more of is my brain. But I did see like one of the biggest things that I did to actually reveal my core, my abs and stuff, and get rid of love handles was just not drinking. Yeah. Because I did a lot of the same intermittent fasting when I was drinking still, especially that last year of drinking, because I was so determined. I had started working out in January of 2023, and then I drank for the next 11 months. And I pushed through those mornings of getting up and that's when I started my cold tub, the cold therapy. I started that while I was still drinking in hopes that it would show me something. And I started a morning routine of working out. I trained for that marathon. I actually ran 2 big races of that year. Yeah, my body was like, look, we can't do both. And it affects, and it's not just those 2 things that you're fighting. Like, you're also a husband, you're also a dad, you're also a business owner, you're also like, you got to take care of yourself. And like I just ran out. I was completely depleted.
Another correlation that I've found fascinating is that I've seen that with a lot of people that when they get sober, suddenly their career, their success just suddenly takes off. Like the success that they were looking for or working on for years, they get sober and then their career suddenly takes off. I see that with a lot of personalities online who had a career for years but were very little known, and then they got sober and their career just skyrocketed. That's a fascinating correlation.
Yeah, I mean, you have clarity of mind. You can see the bigger picture. I think the biggest part of it is that you can actually solve problems, right? You can't, when you're numb to things. I had a really difficult time solving problems. Like problems that weren't like problems that were in your face, like in the moment, that had to be like you were at the fork in the road. Yeah, you could deal with those. You probably didn't. I probably didn't deal with them the correct way. But the long-term problems, like how are we going to address this issue that's going to arise in 6 months or a year? I wasn't thinking like that. My wife was trying to, but I just kept shutting it all down.
Yeah.
And the pattern is that you have to have clarity of mind in order to make those choices that are required to be, to separate yourself from the pack of average, right? And there's nothing wrong with someone that wants to just, have the normal job and just do the normal thing. If that's what you want to do, if that brings you joy, then go for that. But I feel like even in that situation, you would do it even better if you were clear-minded,
For sure.
But if you want to separate from that and do something on your own and run your own business, and especially if you want to take that to some crazy level, like you got to be present, and you got to have a team around you that you can trust that are present as well. There's just too many examples of people on that trajectory, and then they squander it all away, right?
Yeah.
Because they can't think right or whatever.
Another thing I wanted to talk about really quick is TRT and the misconceptions around it, because I've seen you talking about that recently, and what the misconceptions are is that it's hardcore steroids, and the only reason you're fit is because of TRT.
Right. Yeah. So Yeah, it's kind of funny to me. And the one challenge that I like to throw out there is I just want someone to, because it's a win-win challenge, is I just want the person that's saying that to get on the same regiment that I'm on without, and I want them to do it without TRT, and I want them to do the same things that I'm doing, diet-wise, not drinking, fitness-wise, and I want them to prove to me that they won't get good results, because I know they will, and so they'll win, right? And in the process of them trying to prove me wrong, they're going to better themselves, and they're going to achieve amazing things. Now, genetically, I don't know what they're going to look like, but I guarantee if you do the same things that me or some of the other guys out there that are doing this, there's no choice but your body to respond in a positive way.
Yeah,
and
it's hard.
The other part, the other thing to me that's funny, and I was thinking about this the other day. I did a little video about it. Is I get so many people that reach out and it's so comical, and this it's probably going to sound weird, like I'm trying to be humble or whatever, but I'm not a strong guy. I'm like dimensions wise, I'm not I think my arms are like 16 and a half, maybe 17 inches. Like there's bigger guys out there. I'm not a big guy. I don't have a big frame. I'm not super strong. I've focused more in the last 2 years on handling my body weight as far as like doing calisthenics and body weight workouts rather than, benching and whatever, squats, things like that. And so I think that gives the appearance that I'm stronger than I really am. But size wise, like I'm not a big guy. And everyone that I've ever known that's put in the work, that's had a regular, at the very minimum, they've had a really good workout routine that was on steroids, not TRT. TRT is for optimization, and steroids is literally 10 times the dosage. I was on 10 times the dosage. I did steroids way back in the day, and I was on, I think it was 1,200 milligrams a week. I don't know if you know anything about milligrams or how TRT works, but no. I'm on 120 right now. Like I was it was so out of whack. I don't know what my testosterone levels were because I didn't test any of that stuff. I wasn't doing anything the way it was supposed to be done. But my point is that people that have at the very minimum a really good gym workout, really good gym etiquette, put in the work, but they're doing large dosages of testosterone. Well, first of all, you have to do other things as well. There's other side effects that you have to counter and things like that when you get up that high. They get like abnormally bigger, and some people can make that look right, and some people it just looks weird, But I think I guess my point is if someone's on 120 milligrams versus someone that's on 1,200 milligrams and they're doing the exact same thing, the one with 1,200 milligrams is definitely going to grow in size. They're definitely going to get larger. They're gonna benefit more from the same work. My argument is that if you're not on TRT and you have a testosterone level of 900, and I'm on TRT and I have a testosterone level of 900, I don't see how I'm benefiting. Right. And some people try to tell me, well, it's because they say it's because you're more steady regulated. If I was pinning every day, I can believe that, but I'm not. Your body goes ups and downs. My body, goes like that every week. It goes up and then it goes down. It goes up and it goes down because I only pin once a week. And for the life of me, people, they don't even want to entertain that thought that the same numbers, 900 and 900, are that you're kind of on the same, playing field or whatever. Now, yeah. Do I have a benefit over someone that is not optimal? Yeah. Just like if I nourish myself with food and water, I'm gonna have a benefit over someone that doesn't, for extended periods of time, right? Yep. And so it's just it's not an argument that anyone's ever going to win per se, but it is fun to it stirs up thoughts and gives me content for another video.
Yeah. So basically, if someone were to have a testosterone deficiency and you're brought back up to your natural level, the optimal natural level with TRT, of course you would have an advantage, but all it does is bring you to the natural optimal level, basically.
Yeah.
If I understand that right.
Yeah, that's the goal. The goal is to be optimal, and it doesn't have to be, everyone's optimal level. I think what I'm finding in my experience in the education that I've done, or the learning that I've done, is that, just because someone has a T level of 900 and someone has a T level of 600, they could actually both perform similarly. It just depends on how their body responds, because it's not just the testosterone levels that we're looking at. There's so many other things involved. And, I don't personally get into all the other stuff. I let my advisors tell me that kind of stuff. The company that I work with, they go over my numbers with me, and I know some basics, and I know how to manipulate some of the numbers, like the thickness of my blood, like the fewer energy drinks that I drink and the more water I drink, the better my blood works, and the easier it is for my heart to work, right? Little things like that, and then keeping my diet clean. That's going to help with all kinds of other things going on in my body. But yeah, the goal of TRT is to bring somebody that has had their natural levels be so depleted, whether it's through just, genetically it's just lower, or from cell phone signals depleting us, or I don't know, our diet. I mean, there's so many things. In my case, it was a combination of drinking, bad diet, and I did 2 back-to-back cycles of really heavy steroids, thinking that, I was just ignorant. I just thought this is going to make me grow, right? And I got strong. I was going to the gym, and I got strong, but I wasn't doing it correctly, and I was getting a lot of the other side effects that people are so worried about, right? And so I just stopped cold turkey. I just stopped, and it took about a year to get back right. But I was drinking, so I didn't care. Red Bull and bourbon will get you through all those times.
All right, I got a few of your posts here to go through, and then you can kind of expand on that. I have moderation works for average men. I'm not average. That's why one drink always led to 7. The all-in that made me successful made alcohol lethal.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, when I hear it like that, it sounds like I'm poking at the people like my wife, I guess, that are normies, and I'm saying that automatically that they're just average people, and that's not necessarily true, I guess. What is more true is that there are people that are normies that, like my wife is not an average person. She goes above and beyond in everything she does. I mean, she birthed 11 children naturally. And would have done more had we didn't have some medical things happen. She's run businesses successfully while raising the kids, while I was traveling. Like, she's anything but average.
That's incredible.
Yeah, but she can also just have a drink or two. But like I said earlier, she's not doing it in moderation. Like, she's doing it in moderation, but she's not moderating her drinking. That's right. I think that's the distinction. And
doesn't have to try to.
Yeah. So I guess the point in that post is for me, I'm going to go all in on something. I'm going to go all in on, let's just take the subject of drinking. I'm going to go all in on that. Why in the world would I just do one? To me, that's kind of just like halfway doing something, and average people halfway do something. I'm not average. There's times that I fight being average because I want to rest too. I'm lazy sometimes and all that, but in general, the core of who I am, what drives me, is not average. And so if I'm going to drink, I'm going to go all in. And that's why it would always lead to, more and more and more, which, is just going to kill me, right? Whether it physically kills me or just mentally kills me, spiritually kills me, it did everything but physically kill me. That's pretty lethal in my book.
Absolutely. I have, if you drink alcohol, one of two things will happen before you turn 50. One, you will realize alcohol is killing you and you will make the choice to stop. Two, you will realize alcohol is killing you and you will continue to justify it while you continue to spiral downwards.
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah,
like that's really true.
Yeah, it is. I think everyone comes to that realization. Just some people keep it to themselves because they don't want to, either they don't want to address the issue, or they're just scared, or they think that they're going to go through the withdrawal things and they don't want to do that. They would rather just be alive and, buzzed all the time rather than go through the pain of the unknown. But I'm confident that everyone, whether they choose to stop or not, understands at some point before they're in their, and this is the pattern that I'm seeing. And that's why these people that reach out to me and they're like, they go so far out of their way to tell me they don't have a problem. I'm like, I didn't ask if you had a problem. I'm just stating something. You found me, right? And they're like, well, that's just how the algorithm works. And you just came across I have all kinds of stuff that comes across my page and I just flip on through it. Like something about this is grabbing you because you know deep inside that something isn't right. And that you're either at that point where you're questioning yourself, man, I'm having trouble walking up my stairs at night. I'm 45 years old. I wonder if it's from the alcohol, and you try to find every other excuse in the book. The stairs are too steep. They were built wrong. Genetically, I'm messed up. So that's just how it is. I'm 45. This is what happens whenever you're in your 40s. You blame it on every single thing except for
everything
alcohol.
else. Yeah.
Because as soon as you blame it on alcohol, now you have the choice. Now the control is in your court, and the ball's in your court or whatever, and you have to figure out what to do with it. And most people are just like, I don't want to do anything with it. I just want to continue, playing this bad hand. And I feel very strongly that there's not one person that is like 82 years old and still drinking hardcore, if that is even possible, and didn't at some point realize this was a problem. Like, that's just, no one can tell me.
Got one more here. I like this one because it's some facts. 5 reasons men should be fit. 33% of unfit men will become completely disabled before retirement. 61% of U.S. men are overweight and unable to defend their family. That one's heavy. 3, the average unfit male can't carry 50 pounds for 100 yards. So I think of like an emergency situation. Like this next one, most men can't sustain CPR long enough to actually save a life. And the 5th one is physically fit men handle stress better.
Yeah. Yeah, so that one was that's something that I've thought about, but it really put it into perspective when I was just recently going through a CPR, whatever, heavy blood restriction whatever it's called, the CPR training, basically first aid training, and there was 6 men in the group. 1 woman, or 5 men in the group, 1 woman and a kid or 2. And 2 of the men kept complaining. So we got to the point where we were doing the testing or the just the practicing of the chest pumps and mouth breathing, right? We just did 20 seconds of chest pumps, I think, and then 2 breaths, 20 seconds, 2 breaths. We just did that one cycle. That's all we did. Like 40 seconds or 60 seconds of chest pumps and 4 breaths total. And at the end of that, I'm just trying to work on the technique. And at the end of the first session of doing that, 2 of the guys were like, man, I don't know if I could, like, that was hard. They were talking about how it was physically difficult for them. And I'm like, whoa, this was nothing like a real life situation. Now, a real life situation, you're going to have some adrenaline flowing. So that's going to be beneficial in the moment. But just the mere fact that it even registered in their brain that this was physically hard kind of shocked me, honestly, because I don't live in that world anymore. And I was the same age as these guys. Like, there wasn't like a huge age difference. In fact, the guy that was running the class was in his 60s. And he's not the epitome of physically fit, but he was capable of doing this stuff, right? And he was an instructor, and he's fairly active. But some of these other men were just having a real hard time, and I've thought about this before relative to just defending your home, in a situation, or you see these people that they throw a gun on their side or whatever, and all of a sudden they think they're Rambo or Terminator, whatever. Like they just think there's something different than they're not. And it's just, there's a lot of training that I've never done. Like I've never taken self-defense. I don't think that I have the skill set to like fight somebody and it actually look like I know what I'm doing. Right. But so I understand that I have a deficiency there, and I'm working on ways to address that in the right manner with some jujitsu and things like that. That seems to be in the future for me. But so I realized that there's more to it, but just the ability to sustain yourself physically, to carry your child from a poolside to the car to go to the doctor if they've drowned, whatever. Crazy things happen. Things happen all the time. I've seen a lot, experienced a lot that required physical strength and endurance to get through just in my time. And most men could not do that. In fact, part of the CPR training is they give you, they're like, after a minute of doing this, if you fatigue, that's one of the questions is, what do you do if you fatigue? And the answer is to stop and wait for the authorities. And I'm like, this is weird to me. I don't understand why this is even, it reminded me of when I was in the military, a lot of people were having trouble running for the 2 miles. This was our U.S. military, and people are having trouble running 2 miles in their 20s and 30s for the yearly like physical test. So they changed it so that they could get on a stationary bike, or they changed it for the flat footers, or they changed it for the people that were a little overweight, in the fat boy program, they called it. And I'm like, why are we changing the standards? Why are we changing all this stuff? Why are we giving people an out? There should not be the answer, you just quit whenever you fatigue in a CPR training. but in order to pass people, I guess that's where we're at, and that was pretty eye-opening to me.
I was just reading on the news that the Army changed the physical fitness test and made it a little more intense now. I don't remember when I saw that. It must have been earlier in the week.
I'm thinking that there's some of that stuff is happening. I was actually, when I was in the Dominican, one of the guys there that I hung out with most of the time, he's an officer, he's a colonel in the Navy, he's a doctor, and he's a flight medicine doctor, and he was talking about how he's, over the last 20 something years, he's watched it, be like, not like crazy back in Vietnam day, whatever, but hardcore. But it was pretty intense when he got in, and then it got way, a lot of woke stuff came in, or whatever, just weak stuff, I guess I should say, more so. And and now he's seeing the pattern kind of go back up to where they are changing things and they are requiring more. And you have to. You can't. If somebody was just telling me that, I personally don't. Nothing against women. I just don't think that that's a place where women excel. Right. The physical strength part of it, the endurance part of it. Women have things that they go through. Like there's just things that women do differently than men. And
for sure.
And I think that if you're going to have women in these positions, like, I don't know, the elite, SEAL training or Ranger training or whatever, you don't adjust the standards, like the standards are the standards for a 5'4" person or a 6'4" person.
Yeah. The job's the same. And
that was one of the things that this flight medicine doctor was telling me. He's like, he'll fail somebody because they're either too tall or too short to fit in a fighter jet. He's like, that's not I'm not discerning. This is just the facts. It's nothing against you. These are just the standards. And if we keep adjusting the standards so that we can fill seats or whatever, you're going to have, a 7'1" guy that always wanted to be a fighter pilot. He's like stuck in the jet, or a little short guy, right? There's another job for you, you know? And that, whatever that sucks, that was your dream. So be it. But there's also physical strength standards that we shouldn't make easier just so that we can start filling seats, right? Keep the standards high.
Absolutely. I have one last question for you. It's a little bit of a curveball. You said that you're married for 29 years. Is it 29? What's your best advice or your top tips for having a happy, thriving marriage?
Communication. You have to communicate. And this is hard for guys a lot. I think there's even guys that are known for talking more. Real communication is really important. Understanding who your partner is and what motivates them, what drives them, what their fears are. And we use a test called the Enneagram test. It's a really good personality test that really dives into that, but it really helps us understand each other. Knowing that, if I respond a certain way to something and she responds this way to something, that doesn't mean that we're against each other. If we always remember that we're 100% for each other, no matter what it may seem like in the moment because I interpret something wrong or because she interprets something wrong, if we know the truth is that I'm 100% for you and you're 100% for me, that's been monumental for us. But communication, complete honesty and transparency. We don't separate things. We don't have a his and her bank account. We don't have a his and her this. Like it's just, we're just one. And that's something that we've always done. And even in the midst of all that, like there's still like there's rocky roads, right? It's not going to be, roses and sunshine every single day, but it can be so much more amazing if you communicate and if you are just open and transparent and keep things together,
Yeah. That's beautiful. Thanks for sharing that. I'm going to put some links to your stuff in the description, but just for those listening, where can people find you online?
So on Instagram, it's Fit Over 40 Dad. I'm on TikTok as well, but I kind of quit messing with that one. It's a silly platform, but
yeah, it is.
Yeah. I think I have the Sobriety and Strength Legion over on the school platform is one of the monthly community platforms that I have.
You meet once a month on there?
We meet I have 2 calls a week. I have two virtual calls a week, and that's a paid community. That's where you're gonna get, like, if there's any nuggets to get from me, that's where they're going to be. So, I do stuff on Instagram, obviously, that's helped a lot of people, and a lot of people have changed their lives just because of reading some of the stuff that I posted, so that's great too. But if you want to dig in a little bit deeper, the Sobriety and Strength Legion over on the school platform is probably going to be the place to do it. And then there's always one-on-one opportunities. If you want some merch, the Fit Over 40 merch is at, I don't even know the website. I think it's fitover40dad.com.
I didn't know you had merch. That's awesome.
Yeah, I don't talk about it much because that's just not me. I guess I naively think, I created a hat. Everyone will buy it just because. They'll somehow telepathically know that I have merch and they'll buy it from me. It's like, well, apparently I have to talk about stuff. So,
yeah.
But yeah, Instagram's probably the best way to get a hold of me.
Yeah, like I said, your Instagram, I see your post every day and it inspires me, and I really appreciate what you're sharing. It's a really important message, and the honesty and transparency and sharing what you share is super awesome. And thank you for taking the time today to be on the podcast.
Yeah, I'm glad you reached out. I actually really like doing this. Especially now, I feel like my story is so much more, I guess, polished, meaning I've been able to tell it several times to people, and I understand more about why I'm doing what I'm doing and why I'm where I'm at. And And so it's enjoyable now. It was not enjoyable at the beginning. The first time you do these things, it's not.
But again, thank you. And do you have anything you'd like to add really quick?
No, I mean, I think what you're doing is great. Just keep putting out good stuff. You know, it's amazing to me how many times I come across people that are just, you know, not behind the scenes, but just like in the background, so to speak, that aren't verbal about how they've been impacted, and then they finally, after 6 months or a year, they're like, dude, I've been following you for this long and keep doing what you're doing. This has changed my life. And so it's the same for you. All this stuff, you know, Instagram especially, and all the platforms. I know whenever we first start, we want all these big numbers or whatever. But an interesting perspective that one of my coaches gave me was, you know, if you get a video, say you get a video that gets 300 views or even 30 views. If you could just imagine yourself in a room with 30 other people or 300 other people, that's a lot of freaking people.
Yeah.
But on these social platforms, we like want 3,000 and 30,000 and 3, you know, we want all this crazy stuff. So it warps our perspective on things, when the reality is it only took one person reaching out to me saying that their life was affected at the very beginning for me to continue doing what I was doing. I think I had 40 followers at the time, and I was about to just throw in the towel. It had been 3 or 4 months. I was like, you know, I feel great. I'm solid in who I am now. And I was starting to throw in the towel with this. I even stopped for a couple weeks, and a guy reached out and said, hey, you know, this has been impacting me. So I was like, okay, well, it's one person, that's one life affected, right? You know.
My first one too was when I was at a low point, about to give up, when I was first getting started with the podcast and everything. And I got a comment through Spotify, and a guy was talking about how much my podcast had impacted his life. And I turned to my wife, I'm like, that makes it all worth it right there. Like, that's enough for me. Just that one.
Yeah.
Know?
It really is, when you dial it back into the actual, like, what's really important, that's where it's at. Is, you know, that one guy that was about to take his life and decided one more time to maybe dig into what this guy's saying or whatever, right? And it changed his life. That's, you can't buy that, you know?
Yeah. That's what it's all for.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. So we are making an impact, and, you know, I think just keeping perspective that, you know, it's not about how big our pages are or how big they even look. They're making an impact and influencing one other person. And at the very, and this isn't minimum, but at the very minimum, like you've got 6 kids. Yeah. So even if you just have
5
one
and
kid,
1 on the way. So, but
yeah.
6, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, but even if it's just one child, like, there's nothing light about that either, but you're impacting the next generation, right? You're impacting your wife. You're impacting, you know, any other family members that are watching, whether they want to admit it or not. It's, you know, some people don't understand what we're doing or why we're doing it. And I get it. There's a lot of stuff that I don't understand, but it impacts, and it makes a change, and it changes who we are, and it keeps that fire lit for us to keep doing the right things, right? It's kind of our accountability as well. Because no one's above that.
So again, JD, thank you so much for coming on the show and teaching to us today, talking to us today. It was super awesome to have you. If you're listening to this, I put some links down in the description of this podcast episode or this video so you can find him online. Like I said, his content inspires me every day to be a better man in my life. And honestly, to get ripped and fit sometime soon. I really need to get back on that. But just a super awesome guy. It was awesome to talk to him. Definitely subscribe to the podcast wherever you're getting this, whether it's on YouTube or one of the audio platforms. Leave a rating, leave a review. That's how we reach more men all over the world with these positive, inspiring messages. And that's my mission, to level up as many guys' lives as I possibly can all over the world, and that helps me do that. Definitely engage with the content. That helps me reach more men as well. And if you've made it this far in the episode, if you've made it all the way to my spiel at the end and you have read my book, Warrior Husband, I just put out a workbook that's a companion to that book. It's called the Warrior Husband Tactical Workbook, and that's available right now on Amazon. So if you want to take it a step further, if you want to go deeper into Warrior Husband, I put together a workbook and it's super awesome, bro. Check it out. Thanks for listening today. Get out there, kill it, level up every aspect of your life. There's a great calling and a great purpose for your life. A life of overflowing abundance awaits you. On the other side of you deciding to make the switch, make the change, and level up every aspect of your life, a life of overflowing abundance awaits you. I love you. I'm proud of you. Have a good week, and I will see you right here next week on the Warrior Kings podcast. Thanks, guys. Bye.